OpenAI just announced something that most people will think is just another tech product. A browser with artificial intelligence that can see everything you do online, remember every site you visit, and take control of your computer to complete tasks for you. But this isn't just a new browser. This is the moment we start handing over one of the last bastions of human agency on the internet. And I don't think we're ready for what comes next.
Good morning. Today we're going to launch ChatGPT Atlas, our new web browser. This is an AI-powered web browser built around ChatGPT. It's something we've been super excited about and working hard on for a long time.
Today, I want to talk about what this really means. Not the features, not the specs, but what happens to society when artificial intelligence stops being a tool we use and becomes the interface through which we experience reality. Because that's what's happening, and most people aren't paying attention.
We think that AI represents like a rare once-a-decade opportunity to rethink what a browser can be about and how to use one and how to sort of most productively and pleasantly use the web. Tabs were great, but we haven't seen a lot of browser innovation since then, so we got very excited about the opportunity to really rethink what this could be.
First, the facts. Here's what OpenAI announced. Atlas is a web browser like Chrome or Safari, but with ChatGPT integrated at every level. You can chat with any web page, ask questions, get explanations, no copy pasting. The artificial intelligence just sees what you see. It remembers everywhere you've been online and builds a semantic understanding of your browsing history that you can search like memory. And then there's this. Agent mode. ChatGPT can now control your browser. Click buttons, fill forms, complete purchases, and do your work for you.
In the same way that for the previous way people used the internet, the URL bar of a browser and the search box were a great analog, the way that we hope people will use the internet in the future, and that we're starting to see, is that the chat experience and a web browser can be a great analog.
The powerful features cost between $20 and $200 per month. Now, that's what they announced. But let me tell you what they actually just did. They just made it normal for artificial intelligence to mediate your relationship with information. For the entire history of the internet, call it 30 years, you've had a direct relationship with information. You typed a URL, you clicked a link, you read a page, you decided what was true, what was useful, what mattered. Even with search engines, even with social media algorithms, you were still the one reading. You were the one deciding. The browser was just a window, a tool for you to access information. Atlas changes that model fundamentally. Now the artificial intelligence sits between you and information. It reads for you. It summarizes for you. It decides what's relevant. And with agent mode, it acts for you. You're not browsing anymore. You're delegating. You're outsourcing not just the clicking, but the thinking. And here's what scares me. We're going to love it. Because it is better. It is more efficient. It is less overwhelming. But what do we lose when we stop exercising our own judgment? When artificial intelligence reads the article and gives us the summary, when artificial intelligence compares the products and tells us which to buy, when artificial intelligence evaluates information and decides what we need to know, we stop developing the muscle of critical thinking. In a society that can't think critically, that's vulnerable. But let's go deeper, because there's something else happening here that I think is even more concerning. Atlas remembers everything you browse, builds a model of who you are, what you care about, what you're searching for. Yes, you can turn it off. Yes, you can use incognito. But here's the thing. The value proposition only works if you don't turn it off. The artificial intelligence can only help you if it knows you. It can only predict what you need if it's watching what you do. So we have this impossible choice. Privacy or productivity, security or convenience. And in that trade-off, we've seen what people choose. Every single time, we choose convenience. We always choose convenience. But here's where it gets really interesting. With agent mode, you're not just giving artificial intelligence access to your browsing history. You're giving it access to your logged in accounts, your email, your bank, your shopping accounts, your work tools. You're giving artificial intelligence the keys to your digital life. Now, OpenAI says you approve every action. You're in control. You can log the agent out. And that's true today. But how long until that feels tedious? How long until approving every action defeats the purpose? First, we approve every action, then we approve categories of actions, then we just trust it, and that's when we've handed over not just our browsing, but our agency. The question isn't whether artificial intelligence can be trusted. The question is, what happens to a society that stops verifying? Okay, so we've talked about agency, trust, and economic shifts. But there's another cost to all of this that nobody in that presentation mentioned. Watch this agent carefully. It's clicking, searching, typing, adding to cart. Every single one of those actions is an API call to OpenAI servers, and every single call costs energy. So I did some digging. Let me show you the actual numbers. According to OpenAI's own data, a single ChatGPT query uses about 0.34 watt-hours of electricity. Compare that to a Google search, about 0.3 watt-hours. Now that seems pretty similar, right? Almost the same, but here's what that doesn't account for. When you use agent mode in Atlas, you're not making one query. Watch. One call to understand your request. One call to decide what website to visit. Multiple calls to interpret each page. Calls to decide what to click. Calls to fill out forms. A call to summarize what it did. That simple grocery shopping task. Probably 15 to 20 API calls to complete. So that 0.34 watt-hours per query. Multiply it by 15 or 20. Suddenly, that one shopping task uses about 7 watt-hours. That's roughly 20 to 25 times more energy than a Google search. Okay, so 7 watt-hours. That's still not that much, right? That's about the same as running an LED bulb for 30 minutes, or charging your phone halfway. Doesn't sound too bad for a single task. But let's scale this. ChatGPT currently processes about 1 billion queries per day. That's 340 megawatt hours per day, or 124 gigawatt hours per year. That's enough to power about 30,000 average American homes for an entire year. And that's just ChatGPT queries, just the text conversations. Now imagine Atlas becomes the default way people browse. If just 10% of web browsing shifts to artificial intelligence agents, and each session averages 50 API calls instead of 5, we're looking at a 10 times increase in energy consumption for the same tasks. The question isn't whether artificial intelligence browsing is convenient. The question is, can we afford it? Here's the part that really concerns me. Data centers currently use about 1 to 2% of global electricity. But the International Energy Agency projects that by 2030, artificial intelligence workloads could push that to 3 to 4% or higher. That's not replacing old computing. That's new demand, additional load on the grid, and we're already seeing the strain. Cities experiencing power shortages near data centers. Utility companies struggling to meet artificial intelligence demand. Some regions rejecting new data center proposals. In Santa Clara, California, data centers already consume 60% of the city's electricity. And OpenAI wants to put a data center's worth of compute in everyone's browser. Now here's where it gets really interesting. OpenAI is currently losing about $5 billion per year. Their revenue is around $3.4 billion, but their costs, mostly infrastructure and compute, are over $8 billion. That's not sustainable. Literally. At that burn rate, even with their massive funding from Microsoft and others, this business model has maybe 2 to 3 years before they need to either massively raise prices, drastically reduce service quality, or find a completely new business model. So they're launching Atlas, which will dramatically increase compute costs per user, while already losing billions because compute costs are too high. Math isn't mathing, and we haven't even talked about training these models. Training GPT-3, 1.3 million kilowatt hours over 34 days. Training GPT-4, 62 million kilowatt hours over 100 days. GPT-4's training alone used enough electricity to power about 5,800 homes for a year, and they're already working on GPT-5. Now, to be fair, there is a trade-off here. Studies show that using ChatGPT can save workers 30 to 40% of their time on certain tasks. So if an agent can complete a 30-minute task in 5 minutes, that's 25 minutes of human time saved. But at what energy cost? You save 25 minutes of human time but use 20 times the electricity. So we have to ask, what's worth more? Human time or planetary resources? And who gets to decide that trade-off? You know what's interesting about OpenAI's presentation? Did you catch that moment where one of them says, yeah, I'm pumped. And for whatever reason, I got roped into being the project manager for this. For whatever reason, I got roped into being the project manager. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but that doesn't sound like someone who volunteered. That sounds like someone who was assigned to clean up a mess. The whole presentation is super polished, carefully scripted, and then you get this moment of honesty. I wonder if internally, even at OpenAI, there's concern about this launch, about whether it's ready, about whether it's sustainable, about whether it's the right direction, and they just launched it anyway. Because the pressure to ship, to compete with Google and Microsoft, to justify that valuation is greater than the pressure to get it right. Here's what really keeps me up at night. Every major technological advancement in human history has increased our energy consumption. The Industrial Revolution didn't make us use less energy. It made us use way more. The same with electricity, cars, computers, smartphones, and artificial intelligence is no different, except the rate of increase is exponential. If current trends continue, artificial intelligence could consume 10 to 20% of global electricity by 2040. And here's the thing, we don't have that much spare capacity. We're already struggling to transition away from fossil fuels, meet growing energy demand in developing nations, maintain aging energy infrastructure, and deal with climate change impacts on energy production. And now we're adding, and artificial intelligence needs to use as much power as several small countries. Something has to give, and here's what really bothers me about this. There are still 800 million people on Earth without reliable access to electricity, while we're using massive amounts of power so artificial intelligence can shop for groceries for us. Nearly 1 billion people can't turn on a light bulb. I'm not saying we shouldn't develop AI. I'm not even saying Atlas is bad. But I am saying we should be honest about the trade-offs. Every time you use an artificial intelligence agent, you're making a choice. This convenience is worth this much energy, and collectively we're making that choice billions of times a day. Here's why Atlas matters beyond just neat new browser. This isn't a OpenAI making a browser. This is OpenAI saying, we're coming for your operating system. Think about it. ChatGPT for conversations, now Atlas for browsing. What's next? Email, calendar, file system. They're building the artificial intelligence layer on top of your entire digital life. Google should be terrified. Chrome plus search equals most of their revenue. Atlas combines both with better AI. For you and me, this is a preview of the next 5 years. Browsers without artificial intelligence will feel like using Internet Explorer in 2024, archaic and slow. The question isn't if you'll use artificial intelligence browsing, it's when and who you'll trust. OpenAI, Google, Microsoft, Apple, they're all building this. And here's a wild thought. Websites are designed for humans. But what happens when artificial intelligence agents do most of our browsing? Will websites detect agents and block them? Will they charge artificial intelligence differently than humans? Will we need agent-friendly web standards? We're entering uncharted territory. The web was built for people. We're teaching robots to use it for us. That has massive implications for advertising, e-commerce, content creation, everything. In 10 years, we might look back at 2025 as the year the internet fundamentally changed, and Atlas might be the moment it started. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. When Atlas comes to Windows, I'm probably going to use it, even with everything I just said, even knowing all the risks, even understanding the implications. Because the promise is too compelling. Who doesn't want an assistant that makes browsing easier? Who doesn't want to delegate boring tasks? And that's what makes this so insidious. It's not forcing us, it's not coercing us, it's just better. And when something is better, we use it. That's rational, that's human nature. But sometimes what's better for the individual isn't better for society. Like, everyone driving a car is more convenient than taking the bus, but everyone driving creates traffic, pollution, urban sprawl. Individual rationality can create collective problems. And I wonder if AI-mediated browsing is one of those things, where each of us makes a rational choice for convenience, but collectively, we're building a society that can't think for itself. I don't have an answer. I genuinely don't know if this is good or bad, but I know it's important, and I know we should be talking about it. So what do we actually do with this information? I don't think the answer is to reject the technology. That's not realistic, and frankly, it's probably not even desirable. Atlas and tools like it will make parts of life genuinely better, but I think we need to be intentional. 1, don't automate everything just because you can. Choose what to delegate and what to do yourself. Keep exercising judgment. Read some things fully, even when artificial intelligence could summarize them. Make some decisions manually, even when artificial intelligence could do it faster. 2, understand the trade-offs. Every convenience has a cost. Know what you're giving up. When you use browser memory, you're trading privacy for personalization. Be conscious of that exchange. 3. Question the AI's judgment sometimes. Don't just trust blindly. If the artificial intelligence recommends a product, maybe check another source. If it summarizes an article, maybe skim the original. 4. Teach the next generation to think without artificial intelligence first. Before they learn to delegate judgment to AI, they need to develop judgment themselves. And 5, maybe most importantly, talk about this, have conversations, question, debate. Because the worst thing we can do is sleepwalk into this future. So, OpenAI just launched a browser, and it's not just a product, it's a preview of how we'll interact with information for the next decade. Oh, I won't be something we visit. It'll be the lens through which we see everything. And that changes everything, but we're not powerless here. We get to choose how much agency we hand over. We get to choose what we automate and what we keep human. We just have to choose consciously. And so I want to hear from you. And I really mean this. I'm not sure what I think yet. I'm working through this in real time. Do you think AI-mediated browsing is inevitable? Is this a net positive or negative for society? Where's the line between helpful automation and dangerous delegation of judgment? Comments. Let's actually talk about this. This is too important to just scroll past. If this made you think, share it with someone, get the conversation going. And if you want more videos like this, where we actually examine what technology means for society, not just what it does, subscribe, because the future is being built right now. And the more people paying attention, the better our chances of building a good one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.